Ferrari is fading, not exploding, not collapsing, fading. That's the worst part. The Red Empire isn't falling with fire, it's slowly disappearing into silence. Once feared, now ignored. Once hunted, now tolerated. In Formula 1, irrelevance is worse than defeat, and Ferrari is learning that the hard way. The headlines call it a disappointing season. The Italian press uses another word, mediocrity, because this is not a team in crisis, it's a team that stopped mattering. For decades, Ferrari lived between heaven and hell, either winning everything or burning down spectacularly. But in 2025, it's something worse, something tragic. The team sits in the shadows, behind Mercedes, behind McLaren, behind even the echo of its own myth. And while the factory talks about evolution, the truth is clearer than ever. Ferrari hasn't evolved, it's evaporated. Once upon a time, finishing fourth was humiliation. Today, it's Ferrari's ceiling. In Maranello, they still speak of progress, but progress has become a language of denial. Behind the press releases, behind the PR smiles, the truth is brutal. Ferrari is no longer feared. Not by Red Bull, not by Mercedes, not even by McLaren. In Baku, the image was clear. The red cars looked fast in free practice, and then nothing. Lost rhythm, wrong setup, excuses recycled from last year's failures. The Italian media called it the portrait of mediocrity, and they're right. Ferrari has become the team that fights for the middle, never dominant, never desperate, just comfortably irrelevant. Being average, wrote one journalist, is the cruelest fate for Ferrari, a team built to live in extremes. Mediocrity kills silently, it doesn't shock, it erases, and right now, Ferrari isn't losing championships, it's losing its soul. Ferrari promised evolution. What it delivered was illusion. Inside Maranello, they spoke of continuity, of long-term vision, of a car that would finally connect data to dominance. But the SF25 became something else entirely, a machine that only works in theory. In simulators, it's a rocket. On real tracks, it's a mirage. The engineers blame correlation, the management blames time, the drivers, they've stopped believing. Since Belgium, when Ferrari introduced its new suspension, the car has spiraled. Fewer points, more excuses. Every update brings hope for one weekend and disappointment for 6. Reporters now call it a car born to fail, the kind that wins in PowerPoint but loses in reality. And yet the team insists, we are improving. But improving what? Lap times or press statements? Because evolution means movement, and Ferrari hasn't moved in years. It's still trapped in the same red loop, promise, under-deliver, pretend it's fine. Every time they say, we'll learn, it sounds less like confidence and more like prayer. What Ferrari built for 2025 isn't a car, it's a warning. Sources inside Italy now describe the SF25 as a project born to fail. It behaves perfectly inside the simulator, then collapses on real asphalt. The sensors tell one story, the stopwatch tells another. By the time the team realizes the gap, the weekend is already lost. The truth? Ferrari's technology is old. The aerodynamic department lags years behind Red Bull and Mercedes. The simulations are too optimistic, the feedback loop's broken, and the leadership too afraid to admit it. Even Maurizio Arrivabene, now watching from afar, said it clearly. The problem isn't a driver, or even Vasseur, it's the entire system. The car only feels alive during free practice 1, before reality sets in. Then, as temperatures change and grip fades, it falls apart. What works in code dies in contact. Ferrari built a digital dream and sent it into a physical nightmare. And now, the engineers chase ghosts while the management hides behind PowerPoints. Because the SF25 isn't just slow, it's a symptom of denial. At the top of Ferrari's empire, there is no leader, only titles. Fred Vasseur was supposed to be the man of renewal, the calm strategist who would fix what years of chaos had broken. But in 2025, his leadership feels like static, noise with no direction. The promises are the same, the results aren't. The reorganization he designed has turned into paperwork. The vision has turned into waiting. Inside the paddock, whispers say Vasseur's position survives only because of the drivers. They asked for stability and the board listened. But stability without progress is stagnation. Meanwhile, the real power in Maranello, John Elkann and Benedetto Vigna, seem uninterested. Their appearances in the paddock are rare, their influence almost ceremonial. Ferrari's racing division has become an afterthought in its own house. This is the tragedy. Ferrari doesn't lack talent, it lacks ownership. No one truly leads, everyone just maintains. The world's most legendary team has become a machine that runs on autopilot, fast enough to exist, too slow to matter. Ferrari used to terrify people. The red car in the mirrors meant something: history, power, inevitability. But now, when rivals see that flash of scarlet, they don't brace for battle. They breathe easier. That's the crisis. Ferrari hasn't just lost performance, it's lost presence. The sound, the myth, the fear, gone. It's not the monster chasing victory anymore. It's the shadow of what used to be one. Italian journalists describe it with a word that cuts deeper than failure: anonimato, anonymity. The slow, progressive slide into becoming just another team. And for Ferrari, that's the ultimate sin, because Ferrari was never built to be ordinary. It lived on chaos, drama, fire, heaven or hell, never limbo. But limbo is exactly where it sits now, clapping politely while Red Bull rewrites history. The saddest part? The tifosi still show up, still wave flags, still believe, but the team they're cheering for, the one that made the world dream, doesn't exist anymore. And unless something radical happens, it never will again. While Ferrari drowns in committees and caution, Christian Horner is out there doing what Ferrari forgot how to do: lead. At Red Bull, Horner built more than a team. He built an empire. Brick by brick, department by department, he turned a sponsor's toy into a dynasty. No excuses, no politics, no boardroom hesitation. Every decision goes through him. Fast, final, fearless. That's what Ferrari used to be under top, under Brawn. Leadership that felt personal, obsessive, human. Now, Ferrari feels corporate, cold, controlled by people who treat Formula One like a brand campaign, not a war. Horner treats Red Bull as his creation. Ferrari treats itself as a monument. One is alive, evolving, the other is fossilized. Imagine for a second if Ferrari had a Horner, someone who could cut through decades of bureaucracy, someone ruthless enough to burn the past and start from zero. But they won't, because in Maranello, power isn't earned by results, it's inherited by hierarchy. And that's why Red Bull wins and Ferrari watches. Ferrari's salvation won't come from inside Maranello, because the infection is Maranello. Every crisis ends the same way: reshuffles, slogans, promises of restructuring. But the disease isn't mechanical, it's philosophical. Ferrari keeps worshipping the ghosts of its own past, afraid to offend tradition, afraid to let go of the hierarchy that strangles innovation. If the Scuderia truly wants to rise again, it must do what Ferrari has never done: destroy its own legacy to save its future. It needs a leader with total power, someone who doesn't ask permission from the board to win, someone who turns Ferrari from a committee into a cause. Horner proved that's possible. He treated Red Bull like a rebellion, not a department. Until Ferrari dares to give one man full control, nothing changes. The same meetings, the same politics, the same promises that sound like deja vu. Ferrari doesn't need more engineers, it needs a revolution. And revolutions never come from those already sitting on the throne. Ferrari stands at a crossroads. One road leads to rebirth, the other to oblivion. It can keep pretending, rewriting press releases, calling mediocrity progress, or it can finally confront the truth. This team is broken, not by talent, but by fear. Fear of change, fear of losing control, fear of becoming something new. Red Bull doesn't fear, Mercedes doesn't fear. Even McLaren has learned to reinvent itself. Only Ferrari keeps clinging to ghosts, worshipping its own name while the sport moves on without it. Christian Horner's success is not the problem, it's the mirror. He represents everything Ferrari refuses to be: decisive, bold, free. The man who built an empire from nothing while Maranello buried itself under pride. So here's the question: will Ferrari burn down its own walls before history does it for them? Or is this how the legend ends? Not with a crash, but with a whisper. Comment below, has Ferrari already lost its soul, or is there still hope under all that red paint? And if you still believe in the rise of the prancing horse, say it loud. #Forza Ferrari. Subscribe, because the next battle won't be for points, it will be for identity.